Computer. Great. All right. We're on, I think, recording this.
Okay.
Okay, so this is hang on. I want to introduce you because people haven't met you yet. This is Megan McCracken, who helped me write the book 2000 Miles Together. You can see her name down there, which I
There's my
insisted
name.
on having on there because I felt like you did an incredible job and I really enjoyed working with you.
I was initially resistant to it, but I very much
Very. You're like,
appreciate
we
it.
don't do that. Um,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
but your name is on there. You helped write the book, so now you have to deal with this negative review that we're gonna go over also, even though it's probably
Yeah.
okay. So I want to tackle this review. This is a 3-star Amazon review, and it's one of the better critical reviews that I've read. Because I was
three is better than 0. Let's just start with that.
great.
Okay.
3's great.
Let's stay optimistic right off
Absolutely.
the bat.
Okay, so the headline of the review says not a must read, but good enough if you're bored.
If you're bored. If you're bored. It's a pandemic. Everyone's bored. So I feel like
So
it is good enough.
Okay, for everyone.
Everyone's gonna, it's fine.
Which I don't feel like that headline matches 3 stars. But whatever. Okay, let's get into it. So he starts off, I'm assuming it's a he, I'll just call it he, even though I don't know. Am I supposed to say they? Hike and adventure is a tough genre. So he names all these famous authors. And quite simply, this book just isn't at that level of Krakauer, Bryson, and Strayed.
Like, okay, but if I'm the 3rd place person at the Olympics, I'm still at the Olympics, okay?
Hey,
come on, those are
like
big
that.
names.
Krakauer is a professional writer.
Right.
Actually,
okay, well,
Bryson
so am I.
well, okay, so shit, you're right. So yeah,
I have no attachment to being talked about in the same breath as John Krakauer. I'm not believe me, I'm cool with, I'm not quite at that level. Really, reviewer? Okay, yeah, cool. I think I know that.
And
cool. Thanks very much.
The fact that I'm being compared with them even in the same sentence-ish, that's good enough for me because Krakauer was my hero. And I don't know if I told you, I think I sent you the email. I just sent Bill Bryson the book.
You did tell me that, and I immediately texted everyone that I know with that news. That's very exciting.
It's crazy. It's shipping overseas, so I don't know when it'll get there. But if he reads it or even picks it up, that will make my day. Okay, let's get on with this. So he ends with that paragraph. So it's a solid middle of the road effort.
I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. I mean, no one ever wants, I think the good enough gets me a little bit more than solid middle of the road effort. Cool. Okay.
All right.
Agree to disagree, but he's not saying it's bad.
Yeah. Okay. So this next paragraph, I think he names off all the high points, which is nice. But let's go to the paragraph after that.
He does say fairly unique, which is grammatically incorrect. So
are you going to write a review of his review?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So then he goes, the unique perspective made it worthwhile to pick up if you're bored and have nothing else on your list to read, but it wasn't enough to make it a read I'd recommend. Overall, the book would have benefited from some heavier handed editing. The story often suffered from telling rather than showing. What do you think about that?
I mean, that hurts me on if my college creative writing professors read this, then that really is a bummer because that's the only thing they teach you in college writing classes is show, don't tell. I also disagree. I think there's a lot of showing. And I think that also the fact that the cast of characters for a memoir is 20 deep, it's a deep bench in this book. There's some element of exposition, and also it's a unique setting. It's see how I didn't say fairly unique? You can't qualify unique because it's a binary state. It's a unique setting. It's a lot of world building. If you've never hiked at all, through hiked the Appalachian Trail, there's a lot of just vocabulary, for instance, and scenery that doesn't make sense. So a lot of world building, big, deep bench of characters, a little bit of exposition, I think, is pretty necessary. If this is how he took it, then okay, fair. But agree to disagree, I think that was good.
Yeah, I think this was one of my fears,
Oh yeah,
which is
definitely.
really why I hired you guys. But I felt pretty good about it. There was, when I read it probably like literally the 15th time, I think I felt like, oh, maybe this is going to be too long. But that has been really offset by literally hundreds of other people that have said they've cruised through it in like a day or two or three, and that it's impossible to put down. So,
oh yeah, yeah. My family, who all bought it and read it, like unanimously they said, "Whoa, I stayed up late reading it." And also everyone here who read it, everyone, I told you about this. This was the dad gift of the season.
I did. That is true.
Everyone here bought this for their dads for Christmas. So they all got texts back from their dads that were like, "Whoa, I read it in one day." So I agree. I think it's a pretty nice cruise.
So what do you think? He then goes on to say, the story often suffered from telling rather than showing. The book is almost entirely brief exposition followed by pages of introspection and analysis. There is very little dialogue, and rarely, if ever, is a moment in the book left to speak for itself. The author always belabors his points and at length. For this reason, the book is very preachy and repetitive. Because that's like, what's kind of weird is the whole reason why I wrote this book was because I wanted to share those behind the scenes thoughts. But I don't know if that was just my own neuroses or whether that was like.
No, I mean, what he's describing here is not incorrect. It's just he's describing it as though that's a bad thing. This is a different type of book, especially I think it's telling that he remarks upon or includes in the list of names at the top, like Cheryl Strayed. I mean, that book is like a tone poem. She's doing something extremely different with the writing. That's not what this book is. They do both happen to be about through hiking, but it's not what this book is. So it could be, this is a matter of an expectation that isn't really hit. And it's like, well, this is a different kind of book. Also, there is a ton of dialogue throughout it. Not to get too defensive, but I just like don't agree to the extent where I mean, we would never do this, but it's like, you should have seen the first draft. Like, you should have seen it before.
That's true.
Before we did that.
Yeah, it is funny because even like Krakauer, I think he's a journalist and he writes like a journalist to me, which is more or less keeping his opinion out of it, although it's probably embedded in it. And of course, Bryson comes across a little bit more as a comedian, although he's, which I'm none of those things.
Right. I feel that it's a bit comparing apples to oranges. This is a genre that has a lot of different writing styles in it, because I think the nature of an expedition like this is so personal voices. I couldn't, for instance, be like, write this book, but make it like that person's voice. It's so personal that it really needs to stay in your voice. And for better or worse, clearly not to this guy's taste, your tone, your voice as an author is very direct, very to the point, speaking directly to the reader about what you were thinking and feeling. So, difference of opinion, different strokes.
All right. Next, he says the repetition isn't contained to the parenting analysis either. The author attempts to build suspense and foreshadowing by laying out a goal, the A-frame sign at the top of Katahdin, and what it is needed to achieve that goal, and falling short, thus making it seem ever more likely that the goal would be achieved. But this too feels stale very quickly. The author starts to feel more like an accountant, reminding the reader at every opportunity just how many miles the need to average to finish by August 9th. So this was something I actually felt like this a number of times because I remember learning this, I guess, story writing device of like foreshadowing and whatnot. And I remember writing the A-frame sign a lot, like to do that, to say like, hey, this is important and I want you to know. But then I was like, did I do it too much? But it was so important and we saw it all the time.
Yeah.
And then
go
for it.
To me, it's like, do you know how many times in Lord of the Rings they say the ring, the one ring? Like, you've got a MacGuffin that is the driving purpose of your narrative.
Let's pretend that we're not all professional authors. And I don't know what a MacGuffin is.
Yeah, you've got an object that is sort of a plot device that is the driving purpose of your narrative. Everyone's trying to either find it or get there. Yeah, you're going to bring it up a lot. I actually really like reading feedback like this because it's always helpful to see what everyone thinks about it. Everyone there, no opinion is right or wrong. It's always just a matter of perspective. My perspective is not this, but also, I've read the book 8 billion times, so maybe I don't have the best perspective. Maybe it was a little repetitive.
The other thing that they're saying is that, this deadline timeline vibe didn't really work for them. But I had trouble with this because I didn't really like that story as much. Like, I thought there was a
of the getting there in order to go to.
But it was actually our story. That was the driving force for us for almost 5 months. So it's weird. I'm always reminding the people of the average of miles and how far behind we were. But that's like really just how it felt. And in some ways, I think if I could do the hike differently, I would probably do it with different motives or whatever. But it's accurate, actually.
Yeah, that's your story. You can, anytime you're writing anything, but especially when you're writing personal nonfiction or a memoir, look, when it comes down to it, you can either tell your story or not. Not everyone's going to like all pieces of your story, which is, again, why you wrote this in the preface. Hey, reader, you're going to probably disagree with you're not going to like a lot of what you read. That's awesome. We really welcome difference of opinion. That's actually what the whole point of this book is. Like,
yeah,
agree, disagree.
All right. He says, includes several direct quotes from internet forums, which just feels like they're serving the function of a tit for tat calling out rather than really adding depth and detail, which further highlights the lack of any other dialogue and feeling of showing and telling. So this is something that I was concerned about because a lot of these internet posts really got to me on the trail. And then when I included what I felt like was a ton of them in the final manuscript, I wondered if it was too much, if it was actually like distracting, or if I was really just trying to like get even at these people and get the final word. But that was such a big thing that we dealt with. And I feel like everyone deals with is like this kind of critic other in their voice of like what the world thinks. And in this case, we had these very specific examples. So I don't know. Do you think it was like too much ever?
I think there being too much of it is certainly a matter of perspective. I could see some readers saying, I couldn't get enough of that. And other readers saying, there was too much. You really could have just said it once. Matter of opinion there. For me, if I'm putting on my reader hat, not as someone who worked on this book, but if I'm putting on my reader hat, just reading the story, if I know you have a YouTube channel, if I know that you have an internet presence and I'm reading this story and I don't see you mention that there was internet, fervor around what was happening, that to me seems like, what? Okay, is he trying to hide it? Like what? I think you just straight up lay it out there. This is what was being said. This is what we were dealing with. And in no place in the book do you say they were wrong for saying that. Like literally, it is just like, this is how it impacted us. And I love the details in the book about how like you have all of these elements telling you to, oh, should we maybe stop? And then you get to this part where you're reading these Reddit comments and I'm just picturing, like, it's right there. It's like you and Cami are like laying there in the tent going, oh no, like, should we stop? Like it did affect you emotionally. It is part of the story. And a lot of what you're doing, we talked about this a lot when we were writing the book. A lot of what you're doing is when you're writing a book is you're anticipating a reader's either confusion or resistance. and you're giving the information they need to make their own informed decision. At the end of the day, their informed decision is theirs. They decide what to think of it, but you're not going to hold back for fear of them not liking it or coming to the conclusion that, oh, he's just trying to get back at them. Okay, well, that's your opinion. That's fine. But I'd rather you have all the information.
A lot of people, it's the first thing that they mention. They're like, I can't believe how much hate you guys got. Like when they have one thing to say about the book, I've heard that so many times.
Yeah.
It really does stand out to people. All right. Two final things. The author refers to the northern terminus of the AT as Mount Katahdin. Well, the mountain's name is just Katahdin, not Mount.
This crushed me because I feel like I should have known that. Is that true?
You look like you're about ready to cry.
No, I'm not. I'm like laughing. And also like this, when I read this, because I read this one on Amazon, I mean, I'm sneaking on these reviews just like anybody else. And like, when I read that, I was like, oh my God, is that true?
Wait, I don't understand why it matters, because every single person on the trail calls it Mount Katahdin.
Okay, then I feel fine about it. If that's true, then I feel fine about it.
I wrote the damn book, and I wrote it based upon like our experience. So like, I don't care what it's called.
Okay, then I feel relieved because I read that because I'm a total outsider to it. I'm in the role of doing research in the form of like reading other trail narratives, watching all your videos, looking at interviews with people. So I'm just taking it as a second, like a second reference source.
Yeah.
And all I can go on is what I see. And I think people say Mount Katahdin, but then he wrote this and I was like, oh no, is that true? I'm relieved to hear it's not true.
Footnote too that delineates the conflicting opinion about whether Mount Katahdin is 1 foot taller or shorter because of Hudson.
Right.
So I don't really. I thought that was just a funny kind of thing.
Chalking that up to a nitpick. That's a nitpick.
The last line says a good effort from an amateur writer.
To be fair, that's precisely accurate. This is your first book like this. You would never call yourself a professional writer, and it is a good effort. I think it's an amazing, incredible effort. But degrees of variation, they're a matter of opinion.
Great. I thought you were going to get more worked up and angry about this or something.
Well, no, I don't really. I never get angry unless someone like lies in their review. Occasionally people will do that. They'll lie. They have like a vendetta against the author and they'll lie about it. And then I get annoyed. But no, I've been writing long enough at this point that I know that like you could put solid gold out there and at least half of the people out there are going to be like, this is garbage. So like, what are you going to do?
I really liked it. It really got me thinking. And I'm probably a little sensitive to some of the things. But I would rather have someone who leaves specifics about what they are passionate and what they care about. Obviously, this guy cares about these things.
Yeah.
And, it's still a 3-star review, but it's like, it's just weird. It makes you think.
I will say the one place where I would smack this guy is good enough if you're bored. Really?
That is not consistent with unless 350 people are just kissing our ass with all the positive reviews. Right. A lot of people are saying this is the best damn book I've read all year. Yeah. So that's where, anyways.
Yeah, it's been interesting watching the reviews come into this because obviously the vast majority of reviews are glowingly positive, which I so obviously appreciate. No one ever is going to be mad reading a positive review. The ones that matter most to me are the ones that come from people who don't know you well. Like a lot of the readers here in our office who read it and they were like, this is the best book we've ever put out. This is incredible.
People are saying that?
Yeah. In our office. Yeah. They're like, this is probably the best book we've published at this point we just hit, I think, well, we've got the counter downstairs, but we just hit over 700 in the time.
Yeah, that's really fun.
Publishing. Yeah. And I've got people who are like, this is the best book we've ever done. And I actually just got a note. I didn't tell you this. I got a note from an author that I worked with years ago on his like a really preliminary outline of his book. And somehow this book just got to him, made its way to him. He read it, and he emailed one of our co-founders and was like, this book was incredible. And I'm not surprised that her name's on it, like that I'm regretting not working with her more. And I was like, oh my God, it made its way to him. And I felt really happy with that review, because this is someone who would otherwise never read a book like this, and like would never have found your channel, doesn't know anything about hiking. And it somehow came into his orbit, and he went out of his way to say, wow, this book was awesome. I loved it.
I love that.
So that's
it's
great feedback.
I bought 1,000 copies like that are in my living room basically. So I'm shipping them to people like for free, just because I believe in it. And I've heard so many people say that once they pick it up, so it's just kind of, I don't know. I'm researching a lot of like advertising and PR stuff. And I feel like the thing that's the most important is having a solid book that people actually want to get through. Like if the book sucks, you can't sell. I mean, you just can't sell it.
And actually it works in reverse. This is with books, it's different than a lot of other media out there, different forms of media, where with books, because it is so personally tied to your identity and your name, and it follows you. Books are kind of like forever. We tell authors a lot, we're like, hey, if your book is bad, like actually bad, it will hurt you, rather than just people being like, well, not a great book. If it's bad, it will actually hurt you. Whereas other things, they're like, it was a whiff and it's not that big a deal. So yeah, you want it to be good. You really want it to be solid.
Cool. Anything else you want to say about reading reviews or anything else?
No, I love reading them. I love reading what people think. I especially love reading. You know what the favorite part for me also is of the reviews is the number of people that mention how much they appreciated the added perspective of the kids through the journal entries and all of the scenes and dialogue that we added there. That was so gratifying, because that was a huge undertaking that took us a ton of time. It wasn't there originally. It did take a lot of time. It was a lot of work, and we just felt really strongly like we need to bring them in as characters. And so to see that work really justified like that, because that's a lot of people's favorite part. That was amazing. Yeah.
And in the audiobook, the kids are the ones reading the journals. So
yeah, which is the best, because I think of all of from what I've seen of the videos, these are teenagers. If you ask them what they think of something, they're like, good, but like, I find myself like, when you first open it up, I was like, oh my God, the kids are reading the book. I need to know what they think about every word. And like, they're not going to ever do that. But of all of the opinions, I think I care about their opinion the most.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thank you, Megan. This was really fun. And maybe we could do another video at some point if people like it. But I really hope people leave reviews. If you have read the book, it would really mean a lot to me. It's like one of the most helpful things you can do is to leave an honest review. I don't care if it's 5 stars, but if you just share what the book meant to you or how you think it could be better, that would be great.
You're going to be more uncomfortable than you've ever been in your life.
For 5 months, our family walked 13 miles every day.
In the end, we became the largest family to complete the Appalachian Trail.
We encountered snowstorms, overflowing rivers, rattlesnakes, and the government threatening to take away our kids.
And that was the easy part.
The hardest part was what was happening on the inside.
I still can't even wrap my mind around what happened.
Even though we made more than 100 videos with millions of views, there were stories we never told anyone.
About the hate we received on the internet.
Constant struggles with motivating kids.
It was raining, it was a little bit cold.
Would they hate us? Have we gone too far? In 2,000 Miles Together, we share this struggle.
I knew this was going to be hard.
It's a raw look at our successes and failures.
I never really thought about like 3-4 kids and a wife barking simultaneously hard.
We share about the kindness we receive from strangers and the ways we changed as individuals and as a family.
The book contains unedited journal entries from the kids, as well as a foreword by Appalachian Trail legend Warren Doyle.
Most people who hike the trail find that it's much more difficult than they expected it to be.
There are stories including why we decided to run a marathon in the middle of the trail,
What we packed and how we prepared.
How we got sponsored by a shoe company.
and how we overcame failure.
Rainier is not allowed to the peak of Baxter.
But the book is more than a collection of stories. It's an opportunity to expand what you thought was possible for your family.
We're on the top of Mount Washington! And show you that there's more than one way to live life to the fullest. It will inspire you to see that the most important things are right in front of you. And don't cost a lot of money. The book is an invitation to go beyond your comfort zone and connect to the people in your own life. 2,000 Miles Together, the story of the largest family to hike the Appalachian Trail, is available on Amazon and all major online retailers.